Welcome, everybody. This is the Microsoft 365 Platform Community Call. It is January 25th. The next call is actually already in February. This is pretty crazy. The spring is coming fast, and especially in Helsinki, Finland, we're seeing this because the sun stays up longer than 1 hour or 2 hours in a day, which is pretty cool. Now, today, we'll talk about, of course, quick updates on what's happening, the latest on the news side of the house, and we'll do a quick group photo altogether for those who are willing to enable their video. We do have 50 seats on that group photo, so you have to be fast, and typically we take it in 20 seconds. But then we move into 3 demos of the day. For each of them, we have booked 15 minutes. So Arvind will start with the latest on Microsoft Graph connectors. Then we move to Patrick Rogers to talk about when to build Viva connection adaptive card extensions. And this is really cool topic as well, because quite often actually in Microsoft, we focused on technology and APIs and all of that, but then when would you actually do that? Why would you do that? That's a super interesting discussion point. And then Sebastian talks about using Microsoft Graph Toolkit, Teams components in your solution. So, and that's the last demo of the day. So 3 demos again. It's a lot of cool stuff to cover. Before the demos and group photo, just a recap on all of the assets which we have available. We do have 2 different YouTube channels. We have the so-called official Microsoft 365 developer YouTube channel, where we have a lot of videos from cloud advocates and official guidance. We also have our Microsoft 365 community videos, where we are then publishing community call recordings and individual demos from these calls as well, and a lot of other community assets as well. We do have a lot of open source assets available, but because it might be really hard to find the right samples, from the GitHub, we also have sample galleries available. And nowadays, we're more and more moving into the model where we are promoting the unified Microsoft 365 sample gallery. There's some work to be still done there, but it's a great asset, which we talk in a few slides as well. If you're wondering that there's too many URLs to remember, we do have all of the assets and URLs and connections available from the AKMS M365 BMP, which is our Microsoft 365 community welcome page. Now, we always want to remind people that you should be subscribing to Microsoft 365 Developer Program. This is a free program from where you will get a free E5 developer tenant with 25 accounts. So you're able to actually do development for most of the Microsoft 365 capabilities. There are still areas like, let's say, Viva topics and SharePoint syntax and a few other things which are not free, and they're not necessarily yet part of the developer program, but we're working on that as well. But it's a great asset. It doesn't cost you anything. It will take nowadays like 10 minutes to actually get one, and as long as you use it for developer purposes, it will renew automatically. So there are automatic detections that you're using that in the right way. If you're using it for actual production usage, then it's going to actually expire and you are not able to use it for developer usage, of course. We also have a lot of training materials available for Microsoft 365 platform capabilities, starting from the Microsoft Graph to the SharePoint framework to the Viva connection, Microsoft Teams developments, and these are really great assets. So some of them have been gone through. We've been going through them throughout these community calls, but some of them, and there's tens and tens of hours of free material available for you to take advantage. So please take advantage of those. I kind of touched this already. We do have the Microsoft 365 sample gallery available. Now we have currently, I think the latest number was 886 samples from Microsoft and community. And so we're trying to really aggregate all of the samples what we have in the GitHub related on Microsoft 365 from Microsoft or from the community sites to a single location. So as you're looking into starting doing development, in Microsoft Teams, in Microsoft Graph, in Microsoft Viva, and so on, you can easily start by looking into the samples which are available. Download one sample. They're all MIT licensed, so you can basically use the samples any way you want, and hopefully you will make billions and billions of money in the Microsoft 365 platform, right? That's at least our hope. Now, as you start using this guidance and as you start using the samples, it might be a bit overwhelming, but we do have a Sharing is Caring program for that. And David, will you do the quick intros on this one?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vesa. Well, friends, in your quest for the billions and billions of dollars, which we know you're going to make with these amazing samples, we want to help you get more involved by creating yet more samples and contributing back to the community. But we understand that there may be some hurdles involved. Things like, hey, I've never used GitHub. I don't even know what a pull request is. I'd like to present on one of our community call presentations, but I'm a little nervous first time. These are hands-on sessions that we provide hands-on guidance, completely free of charge, safe space opportunities, not recorded, and there's a wide spectrum of topics, as you can see, from first-time contributors to community docs, PNP SPFX, Power Platforms, oh my, so much more. We have a lot available for you to ensure that you are welcomed to the community. As you can see today, we've got our first-time contributor session. This is a general first-time contributor, so still plenty of time to sign up. It's this afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific. And our ever-popular AMAs we've got coming up in February and March on PNP React controls and Graph and MGT with our favorite Sebastian Levert. So lots of great things coming up. We've got even more sessions in store for everyone. Don't hesitate to take advantage. Safe space opportunities free of charge. aka.ms/sharing-is-caring. Vesa, back to you.
Thank you, David, on that one. And like I said, so many times they start getting so much good feedback on the sessions. So everybody who joins them seems to find them insanely valuable, which is really, really cool. Now, let's move in on the typical slide. Just a recap, we do have the Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast, which is typically a weekly podcast, been a holiday break now, but now starting yesterday, hosted by Jeremy Fake and Paul Schaffelin. So yesterday, the latest session, which went live, was around Microsoft Graph Data Connect with Nick Charlebois. A really cool session where they talk about the latest news and, of course, what's latest in the Microsoft Data Connect, which is a super, super cool capability. And then we have our second Microsoft 365 podcast, which is Microsoft 365 PNP Weekly, where we talk about the latest on the news side of the house, not just the development, but also other areas. And typically there is always a visitor in this podcast, an MVP or a Microsoft employee, which we talk about the latest, what's happening and the career development, diversity, and all of the different topics. And today we released the latest version of this one, where we had a visitor as Anup Tati from Content and Code, and he's a relatively new MVP from UK. Now, on the news side of the house, on the Microsoft 365 developer side, and there's a few news. So the only news on the developer blog was around learn how to set up a decentralized identities in Azure, which is a really cool capability if you're looking into doing that. So it's a new option for Microsoft Identity and how to set up things. So not necessarily creating an identity in Azure AD, but a decentralized identity. Really, really cool stuff if you are needing to look into that. Then there was on the Microsoft Teams site, there was two different new blog posts. One around experience high fidelity audio in Microsoft Teams. This is actually a pretty cool thing. So there's an option in Microsoft Teams that if you are playing, for example, music to the discussion, it will actually detect that, hey, you are actually playing music and broadcasting music. So let me actually flip to high fidelity mode rather than focused on the discussion mode with a discussion. So the teams will automatically adapt to audio based on that. And that's always super interesting. I somehow, at least personally, all of the sound detection and audio detection is super, super cool. Then there was a blog post related on how Microsoft Teams is making people to the remote business and remote options for their business. And then there was a blog post related in the Microsoft Viva blog related on the Viva topics. So what's the latest and what has been released and what's in the roadmap. So calling out the individual roadmap items if you're looking into that. Really, really cool stuff as well. Now, before we go to the actual stars of the day, the demos, let's actually do a group photo all together. I will actually start recording right away. I will get you all into together mode in a second and moving in here. And we are already recording. Let's wait for a while for Teams to actually catch up. I will switch the scene to be something else this time, so we're not always looking the same. So let's flip it in this one. Did it move? No, it did not move. One second. Wait. I wanted to have auditorium. And am I actually selecting the same one? Yes, I'm selecting the same one. Let me actually do, no, it is not changing. Interesting. Let's do this. Fine, let's not worry about it. Let's do some hand waving. So thank you everybody for joining once again. Really great to have you in here. Awesome to see full auditorium once again. We're doing this week after week. Actually brilliant to have you here. Thank you. And hopefully by end of this year, we can actually have real in-person conferences and seeing you face to face as well. Thanks everybody, really cool. And thank you, Seth, being an example of the middle again. So really, really good. Yes. That GIF animation is so good on there. Now, let me actually stop that recording and let's start with the demo. So We are still easily under schedule. We'll start with Arvind with latest on Microsoft Graph connectors, move to Patrick, and then Sebastian as the last one. But let's move on to Arvind's presentation.
Hello, everyone. I'm really looking forward to this. It's the first time I've been on one of these calls, so I'm here to talk about Graph connectors and demo how you can build your own connector. Briefly, the agenda is just about providing an overview of Graph connectors, dig into how you can go about building your own custom Graph connector. We will demo that on the side, and you can also see the experiences such as how it integrates with Microsoft Search. So let's get started, given this is a 15-minute session. And keep your questions coming on chat. I'll try to address them maybe after the session if possible. And most of the URLs that you will see and links, I'll make sure I paste all of them in the chat. And pretty much everything I'm covering has public-facing documentation. So even if you're not able to save something up, you can always go back and get those URLs. So I'll just start briefly with Microsoft Search. Intelligent search for work. We are all used to the experience of searching inside of office.com, SharePoint, Bing at work. And so it's a simple intelligent search across Microsoft 365. Your data is secure, private, and never shared. It's an experience that's consistent and familiar, and results are personalized for you and your work. So what about external non-Microsoft 365 data? How do we get those integrated so they can participate in the same experiences, so that you can have data from, not on-prem databases, your own line of business applications, or, file shares and file servers? How can all of that participate within Microsoft Search? So that's where Graph Connectors comes in, right? So with Graph Connectors, developers can add their data and signals into Microsoft Graph to power similar intelligent experiences that we have today for the Microsoft 365 data. This is how you can bring your external data to participate in the same. In terms of some of the experiences that are enabled, search is, of course, sort of the primary and the P0, which is already generally available. Viva Topics is in preview. And then there's also additional scenarios such as intelligent discovery, security and compliance, and other people experiences such as enhancing contact cards, for example. So at very high level, when you have Graph Connectors enabled, the supported hubs today are office.com, SharePoint, Bing at work, like I said, Teams and Windows Desktop, because this is a question we get quite often, like what about Windows Desktop? They will be in preview soon. So you can search across all of these different canvases, and your external data will now start participating in that. From a developer standpoint, the query experiences, the results are rendered using adaptive cards. And you also have Graph Search APIs for you to be able to pull that data into your own system. For building your own Graph connector, which is with the development bullet you see there, that's what I will be demoing today. It's how you can configure and ingest data into M365. There's also an admin side experience to create, your own result type and verticals, and I'll talk about what that is. So far, we are actually, quite excited that we have 130 plus connectors in our system, and I'll be talking very specifically about how you can create your own custom connectors. Before I jump into the demo, I just wanted to show what the experience will be like. In case my demo completely goes belly up, this is what I'm hoping to demo, where you can show relevant results from non-M365 sources showing up in your All tab, which is basically your main search results tab. You can also configure custom verticals so that you can have a very dedicated space for each data source. You can have multiple connections, and a connection is a container for your data source. You can have multiple connections inside of one vertical, should you desire that. You can create custom filters on connector content, and I will show you how that is possible in the demo. So sort of jumping right in, I will flip between the slides and the demo so that we can go step by step and kind of walk through how to build a custom connector. So as for building your own connector, there are three basic Uber steps. There is creating a connection, which is a container for your external data on Microsoft Graph. The next step is registering schema, which is where you define what your data looks like in terms of labels, in terms of the different properties in your metadata. And the last step is actually ingesting items into the connection. So we have REST APIs for all of these different capabilities. So I'll just briefly, for creating a connection, you just need three items in it. You need an ID, a name, and a description. And the response you get, and this is copied out of Postman, which I can also show, is basically a 201 that the connection has been created. So with that said, let me just jump into showcase one of the links that I feel is important to start with. So the sample application I will be using is already on GitHub. The URL for this, let me just paste it as I'm talking through it. So literally all the steps you need that I'll be showing in the demo, right from registering an app in the Azure App Portal to how you go about, configuring the application and then creating this custom connector. So what the custom connector I'm creating today is basically taking a CSV file with some rows in it and pushing that into M365. I'll switch over to Visual Studio to just briefly walk over the sample code. And so the good thing here is you can literally fork this repository and then go make changes. And you can just start from right here to see how this experience works end to end. So the steps that I spoke about are all very clearly marketed as methods here to create your connection, to then start, you can select your connections, delete current connections. So this sample app is pretty powerful to get started. And I myself, I'm new on the team, so I used this sample application along with some of the other UX experiences to actually as part of my ramping up on the team. So I can assure you that it's actually quite easy. So what I'll do before I jump in is I want to go create the connection and then start registering the schema, because that process takes a little bit of time. So I'll do that and then just jump back to the slides to talk a little more as this runs in the background. So let's go and create a connection, M365 call. Name for the connection, M365 test connection. New favorite. So as you can see, the new connection has been created. You can now see this in the M365 Admin Center. But what I will do is kick off the registration of the schema, which is where that is the step which is asynchronous and takes a little longer. So while that happens, I can jump back to the slides. With schema, what you do is you define your various property names that you have in your data, right? This makes it easier for M365 to, for your search experience to be more tailored and also provide more relevant results. You can specify for the different search attributes, whether you want them to be searchable, whether you want them to be queryable, such as in your query, on your query tabs on top, retrievable and refinable. So you have a bunch of search attributes that you can set to your data. You can provide semantic labels, and we highly encourage adding more semantic labels, as well as aliases, which are alternate names to the data, to the various fields, to the properties. In terms of what that REST API call looks like, the one that I'm running in the background right now, effectively, I'm defining the various properties which, with those attributes that I just spoke about. And what the response you will get will be a 202 accepted, which means the call has been accepted, but asynchronously, we are now registering the schema, which can take a bit of time. The last step is about ingesting items into Microsoft Graph. Let's just go back for a second and see if the schema has been registered. Not yet, but what I can do in the meantime is just jump into this Contoso tenant that I have, and then just walk through the search and admin, the admin center. If I hit a quick refresh here, there's a couple of things for folks who haven't seen this before that I wanted to call out. You can see this new connection that we just created, the M365 test connection. Ignore that something's gone wrong because the schema is being registered. I did want to also call out that there are a bunch of out-of-box connectors, right? So for Azure DevOps and file shares, there are some connectors that have a complete UX-based setup. And so I just wanted to call that out while the schema is being registered, and I just go back to my connection there. So the last step, let that happen. I've got another connection created for the purposes of this demo. So while that schema is getting registered, the next step is to push these items into your connection, right? And so the items that I spoke about are basically this. It's a CSV file with like 10 rows in it, with different part names and inventory, and this is the properties that I want pushed in. So I already have a connection created with some of this information fed in. I did want to call out, you remember in the screenshot I said we can create verticals. So I have created a vertical called CSV demo, which effectively all I've done is said, hey, point to this particular connection. Here's my new vertical. You can choose your content source and say, this is my the name of my new vertical, which is the connector I want to use. I have the one that I populated prior. You can define additional queries, but I'm not going to do that right now, along with filters. So I've just basically done straight out of the box, just selected all of those settings. So now that you've seen what that CSV file has, the steps inside of portal.azure.com are all very clearly defined in the GitHub link that I shared. So I'll not jump into that yet. You just need a couple of things like your client ID and your tenant ID, which I have plugged in both into the test application. So just to wrap up this end-to-end scenario, here's my new vertical. If I go click on that, I can see the different items now showing up in my search experience, which I pushed from my CSV. When I said they will also show up in the All tab if I search for water dispenser, and I've been searching for this for the last few hours to make sure the demo works. So there you go. You see it inside of the All tab, and you see the results both in its own vertical as well as in the All tab, showcasing another experience such as Bing at work. In my Work tab, if I now go, you see the same results inside of all here, and this is, it's analogous to the verticals that I just showed. It's populated from the same place. So, here's end-to-end, going from Excel, from into a CSV, into M365, and watching the search experience. So I will minimize this for now and just go back into, just wrap up a couple of things as to what's coming next and useful URLs. So for ingesting the item, the next step in my code, if the schema is registered. Oh, fantastic. So let's just go ahead and push all items into this current connection, though you have already seen what the end-to-end experience looks like. So in terms of what's new, generally available, you remember in the user experience, I said there are some out-of-box connectors that are already present today. And so those are the ones which are generally available. We have a bunch more in preview, such as Azure DevOps, Jira, Confluence, so the ecosystem is only growing, like I said. We also have a partner ecosystem who are, helping add more capabilities to the platform by bringing in more connectors. On the core platform improvements, I really wanted to call out two things. These are almost the top asks from our customers. One is about increasing the item count in each connection. Today, we have a limit of 700,000 per connection, and that will be going up in the next few months to 5 million, which I know a lot of our customers are excited by. And the other thing I wanted to call out is schema updates. Today, when you register a schema, if you want to make any changes to it, you have to drop the connection and recreate things. So we will soon have the ability to update schema being generally available. This is already available in the beta APIs. So the call to action, right? I think I saw Brian's already pasted some of these AKMS links. But so the links to the documentation, the links to build your first graph connector, what I just showcased today with the sample application. I have all of these tabs open, so I will briefly just touch upon them so you know what each of them is useful for. And then we have two separate links on the right-hand side. One is for providing general feedback, which is AKMS Graph Connectors feedback. And if you're interested in previewing features and trying out capabilities like the Graph Connector SDK, which I know was discussed a couple of weeks ago in the platform call, so you can then go to Graph Connector Preview and let us know if you would be interested in working closely with us on preview features. That said, I'm almost done, but let me just briefly just walk over the different things. So AKMS Graph Connectors, this talks about the different connector galleries where we have connectors from all of our partners, and you can go and look through the different connectors that are there in the system today. And so that's quite interesting and pretty fantastic. To build your own connectors, like the one I just demoed today, that's AKMS Graph Connectors API. And you can use Postman. We have the connector API. We also have steps on how to build your own first custom connector, which is what I demoed today. I just want to give a quick call out. My last thing before I wrap up is a quick call out to a blog that we put out around Ignite, which actually details a lot of these things that are coming up. And so it's a good resource, and it also has some of the AKMS links. So a quick search for Tech Community Microsoft Graph Connectors should showcase this latest blog. So with that, I think I am ready to wrap up. And so let me stop sharing my screen. And I hope that was useful. Over
Excellent.
to you,
Thank you,
Vesa.
Arvind. Really, really cool stuff. And thank you for the updates. So super useful. And let's actually right away move it then to the next demo. And if there's any questions which were not answered, let's follow up on the chat, Arvind, on that one. But really cool stuff. Thank you for that. Now, Patrick Rogers, you are next on the line and we can see the screen. So take it away.
Great stuff. Thanks, Vesa. Thanks, everybody, for having me back again this week. Last week, I joined the call to talk a little bit about ACEs and ACE development, specifically around state. And we got some feedback coming out of that call. People had a little bit more foundational questions about when do you build an ACE? When's an ACE appropriate? Why would I use an ACE versus a web part and things like that? So we thought it would make sense to cover over here on the call why or when to build ACEs. And to me, ACEs are all about being lightweight, immediate, and personal. And what's that mean? So I'm going to click over. I've only got a few thousand slides to go through today, so this should be pretty quick. But what we've got here is an example dashboard. This is just a mock-up, but gives you an idea of kind of the flavor that ACEs can take. And so thinking about those concepts of lightweight, immediate, and personal, when you look at this, thinking about lightweight, you should think about mobile first. ACEs are really kind of a mobile first mindset. You want to make sure that you're not writing tons and tons of code, right? If you're writing 10,000 lines of code in an ACE, you might want to rethink that, refactor that a little bit. Everyone's busy, right? Everybody's on the go, and COVID and the pandemic and everything else. And so ACEs are a really great way to connect to frontline workers, but also all workers. So folks everywhere throughout your company. But you want to do so in a way that keeps things sort of lightweight and clean, and really helps to reduce that cognitive overhead of understanding what you need to do. So these things should have sort of a single idea within each ACE. That's the immediate part of this. You've got a call to action. The ACE does something for you or helps you complete something. So you can see, looking at this dashboard, just I'll call it a couple quick examples. So a health check, completing before entering facilities. That's something we've probably all dealt with a little bit with COVID. Tracking your time off, tracking stock prices on things, learning. So a big part of Viva All Up and part of organizational outreach, especially as we're all working remote, is learning and keeping things up to date. So if I glance at my dashboard and I see I have a new learning topic that's available, you can think of these ACEs a little bit. For those of you that might remember Windows Phone, live tiles. You can update these dynamically to show I've got 2 pending lessons, maybe 3 pending lessons. As I complete them, that number goes down. Maybe it says, hey, you're all up to date on your learning and on your training. And as well, this immediate is these ACEs should perform quickly. So you would build an ACE in a case where you've got a quick action you want someone to complete. I want to view a stock price. That's a pretty clear use case that fits very well into an ACE. And for those cases where you need a richer experience that doesn't perhaps fit necessarily into that dashboard mindset, you really want to look about linking out to those richer experiences. Those richer experiences can be Teams applications. They could be a SharePoint page that you've put your other web parts onto and build a dashboard for folks to land on. Or it could be linking out to your full SaaS solution. So ACEs in the case, I really wanted to title this presentation ACEs on the case after Paw Patrol, because I've been watching a lot of Paw Patrol recently. But so linking out to these richer experiences helps keep the focus in the ACE immediate and actionable and lightweight. So think about that. As well, ACEs provide the quick view capability. I'm going to click over here to slide 2 of 3000, and you can see the animation there on the left is showing you the use of this quick view. And so you have control. Again, we talked about this last week. We've talked about this before. In the quick views, they're defined with adaptive cards. So you have control over how that renders, but you should still keep that focused. You could put a lot of information there, but again, you're kind of getting outside of where ACEs really shine, and ACEs really provide a lot of value to your users, is giving them those quick hits of action. For example, here's a daily health check is this example, couple of clicks and you're done, right? Checking a stock price might be a single click. Getting some learning, you might click, view my upcoming lessons, and that would give you a quick view list of all your lessons, and you could link out then to the learning application. So this immediacy of these ACEs is all about building that engagement. So if you've got rabbits on the front lines fighting these horrible horses, you want to engage them quickly. They've got a lot on their mind. They're doing a lot every day. They're context switching constantly. So make these things immediate in how users interact with them. Give them task-based, information-based examples of what you want them to do or paths to follow through there. And finally, personal. Personal is all about ACEs need to have value to the user, direct value to the user. Why is this ACE taking up space on my dashboard? Why have you taken up real estate on my mobile device, right? That should have a clear answer. You should understand why you're presenting this ACE to the user and what you expect them to do with it. ACEs allow audience targeting. So very much encourage you to build multiple ACEs with multiple audiences in mind, right? An ACE for me, as a tech developer, might not be the same as an ACE for somebody that works with customers in a store, for example. But you can have those ACEs live side by side on the dashboard and target it to those users as appropriate with audience targeting. So it's really about connecting with workers on what gives them value and empowering them to perform that action, right? Whether it's log time off, do a COVID check-in, or whatever your use case might be, it's nice and small and focused and cohesive as to what you're doing. And if you need to present more information, for, an example would be like a large table of data, or you need to show them an interactive experience that has lots of parts to it, or some kind of a form builder experience, right? That's something that really, ACE, I'm really sorry. Adaptive card extension, great question. And poor on me for not covering that right up front. So adaptive card extension, part of SharePoint framework, and sorry for not covering that up front. But so these ACEs really help you build out these experiences and give value to your users. So clicking through, just one final slide here of the 3000. So this shows you kind of how these ACEs fit in. You've got sort of the mobile experience there on the right, and then you've got the dashboard experience you might see in your browser inside SharePoint there. So these things are going to be exposed in multiple places. They're also exposed potentially in Teams, potentially other places across your organization. You'll see these ACEs start to show up and really provide you launching into your larger applications. So I'll finish up here. Just want to list out a couple of common scenarios that we've seen as we've worked with ISVs and our internal partners to build out these ACEs, but it's a great way to give your folks in your company or your users a way to provide feedback about things in the company or things about your product, for example. Reviewing tasks that might be upcoming for them. Perhaps you have a task scheduling system or some type of an ADO, or there's a lot of different kind of systems like that out in the world for tracking, work. You could link up an ACE to that work, help developers or help anybody track the work they've got going on. Stuff related to human resources. So we all want to check our pay stubs, right? We all want to, clock in and clock out of our work if that's part of your job. That's something that can very easily be enabled through an ACE and makes a lot of sense in that context. And then, there's other cases where we've seen folks successfully link out to sort of mentoring applications, find a mentor, connect with a mentor, right? And that might be a quick experience in the ACE, linking out again to a larger application, or reaching out, for help from a team, right? You might have a way to sort of ask your organization for new hires, right? You could have a question for folks around, a way for new hires to ask the organization, hey, I need to book travel. How do I do that, right? Or you could have an ACE that helps folks book travel. That's another great example we've seen a lot of there. So just to sum up, ACEs, when you think about building ACEs, these adaptive card extensions, where they fit in to your sort of overall development strategy, really think about lightweight, immediate, and personal. Think about mobile first. How is this adding direct value to a user using this thing in a mobile context or in a dashboard context? What does it make sense to put in the ACE? Again, thinking about lightweight, keeping it simple and user-focused and task-focused. What do you want them to achieve by using your ACE, by using your adaptive card extension? And then finally, personal. Make it have value to them. Make it make sense to them that it's on the dashboard of their ACEs versus perhaps on a larger company dashboard or located in a SharePoint site a little bit deeper with a little bit more context, or located in a Teams application that's giving them a much richer experience than you can put into an adaptive card extension. But that adaptive card extension can be the launching point to give folks that larger experience. So that's kind of how I think about ACEs. Open to folks having any questions about that or how we can expand on that topic.
Patrick, don't stop sharing yet. Just
I'm not.
A few things. Yes, just in time. So really good stuff, and it's good to have those business scenarios to book down, and it's really, really important to use, like you said, understand that this is mobile first. So it's really giving you the mobile portal, building that mobile portal experience for your company based on your company needs. And then if you think about the card is the ACE, or what you're seeing in here. You click it, you can have a quick view. Why is that called a quick view? Well, it's called a quick view because it's a quick view on the data or to the application where you can still move into. So you basically have a quick view on, let's say, the business data, or quick view on the things what you need to approve as a manager, or quick view on whatever the information is what we're actually going to use. And then you can open up the actual Teams application if the capabilities what you're intended to do are not available, or in the basic actions which we would expose in ACE. But really cool scenarios. And one thing to call out also, actually, which I think we talked about more in the ACE development a year ago, but we haven't talked about it yet that much because it wasn't yet part of the 1.13 SharePoint framework release, but it's coming soon, which is the location-based ACEs. So basically, location-based, because your mobile device obviously has a location information. So then you can imagine that based on your location, you are in a warehouse, you would see a separate set of ACEs and functionalities than as you're seeing when you're at the office, or let's say a typical lunch menu or whatever. So again, because it's a mobile first, based on location, we can actually adjust the behavior as we move along and implement these scenarios. So really cool stuff. Thank you, Patrick, on this one. I just wanted to share that the location information is pretty soon available in the ACE development as well. So makes sense.
Right on. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Patrick. And then let's move to Sebastian Livert and Microsoft Graph Toolkit controls.
Awesome. Thank you, Vesa. Let me share my screen fairly quickly. Let's see if
no rush. Take your time. It's not about sharing the screen quickly, so it's okay. Okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, we can see the screen. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Today, I want to dive a little bit deeper into our Microsoft Graph Toolkit discussion, especially around some of our Teams components that we have built in to the Graph Toolkit. First, my name is Sebastian Livert. I am a senior program manager on the Graph Toolkit team, also doing other stuff, but the focus of today is really around the Graph Toolkit. Just as a recap, what is the Graph Toolkit? Well, the Graph Toolkit is a collection of reusable, framework-agnostic components and authentication providers that allows you to work with Microsoft Graph. So think about ready-made controls focused on productivity scenarios that are pre-connected to Microsoft Graph. So you don't have to build any of them. You don't have to rebuild a user control. You don't have to rebuild a Teams channel picker. You don't have to rebuild any of these scenarios. They're already built, they're already available, and they work flawlessly in any type of web framework. Think React, Angular, Vue.js, jQuery, Handlebar, or whatever your favorite framework is. We work on all modern browsers because we're using a standard way of building components, which is the web components standard, which is now pretty much available on all modern browsers. Why would you build it using the Graph Toolkit? First, because you're going to cut on development time. You won't have to rebuild these things. You're just going to have to leverage some of them inside your app and build your business value on top of it rather than just building another control that connects to Microsoft. Still, you want to make it beautiful. Maybe you like the way Microsoft 365 looks like, or maybe you're building an app that really fits within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. You're good to go. You have nothing to do. That's what we provide out of the box. But there's always a way to make it flexible so you can bring your own style guides, your own colors, your own styling to these controls so they feel a little bit more natural inside your applications. And finally, it just works everywhere. You want to build within Teams, you want to build a spa, you want to build a SharePoint framework web part, or maybe you want to build an Electron application. Well, all of them will make these controls fully shine. So today's focus is about our Teams channel picker. Teams channel picker allows a user to go in, start typing for a team or for a channel, and being able to select a channel. We can think about some scenarios that this can deliver. Maybe you want to send a message to a channel as part of your line of business application to spark a conversation, or maybe even to, to reply to an existing thread that exists in that channel. Well, that's exactly one of the scenarios we're thinking about. Maybe you also just want to select a channel to create a meeting within that channel. Or maybe you want to select a channel to identify the files that are linked to that channel. All of these different scenarios are absolutely relevant in this case, and that's what the control really is all about. Now, enough with the slides. We're here to show a little bit of code. So let me dive into that scenario right away. So let me open it up. We are using the same simple application we've been using for the last couple of weeks. All of that is available already on GitHub. You can go to aka.ms/mgt/sandbox. That's going to lead to a GitHub repo that you can get and start playing with this solution right away. So first, we're going to focus on kind of the general scenario here. So I wanted to show I'm in Teams. That's all the different teams that I have across the board, the retail, US sales, communications, and all of that. So let me go back to my app here. The first scenario that I want to highlight is a Teams channel picker for the currently signed in user. So the only thing you have to do is you're looping in our CDN version of MGT using this script tag here, which basically loads MGT in any type of HTML page. It's going to load everything it needs, bring all the references, bring all the different components, and you're basically just using this here, using the MGT Teams channel picker. No configuration because it's really built for the connected user. We're using the joined Teams API from Microsoft Graph. We're also using some Groups API to go a little bit deeper in that story, but that's really the configuration that you have here. So it makes the MGT Teams channel picker a very easy to use component because it offers very few configuration because it's all around the connected user. So first, you might want to select a channel. We have an experience that as soon as you click on the text box that here, kind of the search box, you're going to automatically get an initial call that will bring all the different teams that you're a part of It will also allow you to navigate and find some of the channels you want, like, for example, Sales East. But sometimes, maybe you're like me and you have like maybe a little bit too many teams that are available in your teams. Maybe you're part of hundreds of teams, but you know exactly what you're looking for. I'm looking for the Sales East channels, but I don't know where it is. It's a little bit lost. I can go here and say Sales East, and automatically it's going to highlight this. So it's kind of a way to filter the current channels to make it as easy as possible. And then the only thing you have to do is you click on it, and automatically it's going to select this. Now the experience here, I wouldn't say it doesn't offer a lot, but the only thing we see here is that it selected this channel. We're going to move a little bit further down the road to not only do this, but also react to the data that was actually selected thanks to some of our other components that we have. So second scenario I want to highlight is that one here. So let me uncomment this here, which brings a Teams channel picker for the currently signed user, but we want to know who are the members of that team. So let me just save here. It just reloaded my HTML page. And when I'm looking at the second area, what we're doing here is I'm literally delivering a scenario where when I'm going to select one of these channels, we will be using the MGT people component. And here you see it here. We're going to show a maximum of 10. We're going to highlight the presence of these users. And by code, I'm going to come here and I'm going to identify which group ID I want to leverage here. So I'm going to showcase all the people that are in the currently selected group ID. So let me show you the code quickly before we go into the demo. The code is very simple. When you're going to do a Teams picker, when you're going to do a change of selection, when I'm going to change what is the team that is underneath that I'm selecting, if I have more than one detail or more than 0 details, in that case, I do have a team that was selected. It's not, I haven't cleared it. I selected a team. I will be assigning the group ID of this control, this team group ID being my MGT people component. And the beauty of web components is that you can add native properties to out-of-the-box HTML control. So in that case, I can set the group ID here to be the ID of the team that was just selected. Then I'm going to basically display this control afterwards. So let me go through the example here. I click here. I go to my communications channel. I select my general, and now I see that I have 6 people that are inside this group of people. So it can be also a way for you to select a channel. You can also leverage some private channels from the APIs. And then afterwards, you can maybe either send a message to one of these folks, can go here and send an email, start a chat, see the entire people person card here, or whatever you want to do with this. So it's easy to connect the selection of one of these channels with anything you want, in this case, with another MGT control that we already covered, which is the MGT people. So let's go and have a look at another scenario where this could even drive more value. So think about maybe you're building a project-oriented line of business application, and you want to notify all of the folks that are in a specific channel because, well, you want to tell them that you accomplished something. You want to report back on the status of a work item, anything. So one of the things that I've been doing here is I've been using the same approach, again, an MGT Teams channel picker. And I have a text area and a button here. I'm using the Fluent Web Components version of it. It could have been just a regular text area and a regular button. And what I'm going to do is, via code, I'm going to add some functions that will automatically get that the information from the selected channel. And what I'm gonna do is the text area will allow me to add some text, and I'm gonna have a send message button that will automatically send the message to the actual selected channel that was selected. So it means that in Teams, people will see a message popping up. So let me go a little bit down here where I have this capability here. So when I'm going to click on the send message button, I will be going and getting the data about the picker. The picker is the one that I just created. I will be able to select it, select the channel, and automatically it's going to create a selected item object on our control. If I'm logged in, which is highly possibly the case in this instance, but I always want to make sure that I'm signed in so I can do calls to graph. I will go and grab an instance of the graph client that is available as part of MGT. So here we're really talking about a little bit more advanced scenario where I can get an authenticated graph client to do any type of JavaScript call with the graph. So any calls to graph, as long as we have the right scopes and permissions, this will allow me to do these calls. I will be able to go here, call my graph client to this specific API, which in that case is my /teams. I can specify the ID of the team and specific channel, which is that ID. I will be able to post a message, and the message content will be the value of the text area that I have. When we're done, I'm just going to do a simple alert on that the message was sent. So let me show you how it works. Let me go to my communications channel. I'm going to go to the general channel. I'm going to say, hello, M365 platform community call folks. Going to hit send message. Then it's going to hit this code, and automatically it's going to send to graph. And now I have a message sent that was just delivered here. If I go here, I just found like that a second ago, my message was sent. So it's not only to retrieve data and to select data, but you can also, with the help of the client that is built into MGT, you can also perform action on graph and add new data, post some of that data elsewhere. Finally, one last demo that I wanted to do today, which is our capabilities to templatize or to add some templating to the experience. So what does it mean? It means that compared to other controls in MGT, we're keeping the experience around the channel picking very specific to the control. But if you don't like the loading experience, or if you don't like the no data experience, you can bring in your own experience in there. You can bring your own template to replace them, to make them fit a little bit more your brand or the way that you're interacting with your apps in general. So in that case, for example, when I'm using the MGT Teams channel picker, I have the way to specify, you know what, I want to override the template that is called error. We have two templates for this control, the error template and the loading template. So when I'm going to have an error or I won't find any data, I will just add a P here, a paragraph with sorry, no teams or channels were found. And when it's loading, I'm going to have the loading results here that will be shown. So when I do this, this one was already loaded. So we're skipping the loading results here. But if I say test seb, well, now my sorry, no teams or channels were found is now the template that is being used. So there's really a lot of customization opportunities that lies inside the MGT controls. And I highly advise to look at those to really make them feel natural for your users to have the same types of behaviors that we see around the rest of your application. So let me go back very quickly to slides to sum it up. We went through a demo, a couple of resources. Feel free to come into our repo, ak.ms/mgt, our docs, our issues, the samples that I'm using for this series of calls are available in aka.ms/mgt/sandbox. You can play around with our Graph Toolkit playground without even having to install or develop anything. So aka.ms/mgt/dev. And if you want to learn and see all the different learn modules that we have to become an MGT expert, you can go and learn over there. Back to you, Vesa.
Thank you, Sebastian, and really cool stuff as well. Thank you, Patrick. Really, really cool demos today as well. And the recording will be available in 24 hours at the YouTube, at our community YouTube channel. And please do follow up us on Twitter. The next community call, the weekly one, is on February 1st. So it is actually February on next Tuesday. It's pretty crazy. But thanks everybody for joining this time. And let's stay in touch. Thanks everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.